This is a screenshot of 5-minute EMINI data with some indicators applied. The equity turns blue on an uptrend and turns red on a downtrend. These are automatic trend lines here, and they're plotted through pivot points. This dashed red and yellow indicator is a dynamic Fibonacci indicator. This oscillator here is a proprietary indicator I call the LS oscillator. There's its trigger line here, and you can see this dashed line is the same indicator, only it's applied to 20-minute data. Finally, there's the bias lights indicator. This indicator turns green when the bias is up, yellow when the bias is neutral, and it turns red when the bias is down. This is a buy signal right in this area here. As you can see, the equity top crosses above this green trend line right in here. The LS oscillator is well above the trigger line. It is green. The dashed line here is moving up, and the bias lights down here have turned green. Here in this area, you can see that the equity moved below this red trend line here, which is negative for the equity, and this is where you would exit a long trade. You can also see that the LS oscillator is moving down here, moves below the trend line, and the dash line is also starting to move down. Now, even though the equity is moving down here, the bias lights remain green right in here. So you would not want to short this equity here because the bias is still up, which indicates it's not going to be a major downtrend right in this area. Here's a screenshot of the EMINI on another day. In this area, the equity turns red and moves below this red trend line right in here. And you can see that the equity then starts moving down. The LS oscillator here crosses below the trigger line. However, the bias lights still haven't turned red, so we might want to wait till this area where the bias lights turn red before we would short the equity. Notice over here, the equity once again moves below another red trend line right in here, which simply confirms the downward movement. And the bias lights continue to be red here. Once the equity moves below these green crosses here, that's the last area of support. So we get a pretty good drop from there down into this area. In here, the LS oscillator starts to move up. The equity crosses above a green trend line here, and this would be a good area to exit the short trade.